Morning, y'all. Heading to Torquay, we're going to talk about being aggressive or not. What advantage do you have by being close to the green or not? I've just been surprised with some of the comments in the Challenging Dan to think more aggressively video, like really surprised. But we're going to dig a little deeper, hopefully make it a little clearer. Let's get to Torquay, should be a fun day. You tidying, bro?
Just trying to find a Callaway.
We're talking proximity to the hole today.
Okay.
Definitely feels like this is not quite understood.
Few are lost.
Including lots of good players. I have this conversation with a lot of good players, and it actually shocks me that stronger players would be feeling this way. What I think is interesting is that we found this out by mistake.
In the car?
No, as in like Tiger Woods made it.
I see what you mean.
Nicholas made it really clear, but no one ever notched it down.
Yeah.
Because I personally think the golf coaches have failed, me included, for a part of our lives where we were getting it very wrong.
Yeah. In
that kind of Faldo era. Because I've got an interesting theory about Faldo, which we'll come to another time because it will upset a lot of people. But I think it's
Go on, say it.
No, I'm not. It needs a full video to. I think it needs
you probably would.
Don't get it anyway. So Tiger. So did Tiger understand strokes gained
before everyone else knew about it?
Or did he just work out to play that way and it worked, so he went with it? You see what I mean? It was like an accident, because Tiger was the one that really made this so clear when he just dominated that Masters. It wasn't about hitting fairways, it was about being as close as you can, because if you've got a wedge into a par 5, you can go over stuff, you can go around stuff really easily, opposed to having a 4-iron into a green that you can't hold and it runs over the back and you've got that awkward chip. Let's do a few tests. I put a green out there at 120 and I've got my par filled, which is my wedge, 46-degree Vokey, okay? And we're going to do the classic one, because I had this conversation with a few people online and it shocked me, their answers. Wedge from the rough or 5-iron from the fairway, what would you rather have in? People are saying, I'll take the 5-iron from the fairway all day long. Now this isn't the rough, but we'll talk about that as the video goes on. Let's just go wedge to 5-iron to kick us off, show you proximity to the hole.
Get up a little and you're stiff.
Right, let's hit a few 5-irons now. I mean, we all know where this is going, but let's just make this point and then push it a bit further. Now I would say they're some of my best 5-irons, but look at the numbers, it's interesting. So I'm 184 total if you're going to put some roll in, to 119 total with the wedge if you're going to put the roll in. So they're both 1 yard shy average. Look at the standard deviation of my 5-iron. That shows you how good I hit those 5-irons for me. 1 yard in roll out. The wedge actually deviated more, which is interesting. So you would say the 5-iron from the fairway. This isn't, got to remember, this is from the fairway, this wedge. But look at this, 8,000 spin with a wedge compared to 5.2, launching at 25 compared to 15, descent angle 48 compared to 43. Both peak heighting very similar, 29 and 27, which is quite interesting as well. That steeper descent with more spin, higher launch from the wedge. I'm going to have that all day long for hitting greens and getting the ball stopping closer to that hole. The other thing as well is my offline deviation is 2.8. It's 4.8 standard deviation with the 5-iron. So almost double.
Yeah.
And then I'm 0.3 left on average, where I'm 2.2 right on average with the 5-iron. I had one 10 right. The furthest right I hit it with the wedge was 4.4. I think everyone is happy, well, not everyone unfortunately, but most people are happy to understand that if you've got a wedge into a green, you're going to have more birdie putts than you are if you've got a 5-iron.
Yes.
Now, if we put this into the rough, because that was my initial statement, I'm still going to buy into that launch, that descent, every time over a 5-iron from the fairway. You're quite skilled at this. If you're a wedge distance out, 120,
Yeah.
and there is something in your way, but you're that wedge distance, you can go under it, over it, or around it.
Yeah, you've just got more options, haven't you?
Yeah.
Basically, when you've got the wedge in your hand. Trying to hit a high 5-iron, not everyone's going to be able to do that, are they, with their speeds and things like that? So, yeah, it just, like, the data says everything there, doesn't it? People that are picking a 5-iron, like, reevaluate.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the one I always find quite interesting in this, is that when we talk about, so like we do with Dan, and we're still working on Dan, because I think, so you've got to understand, Dan doesn't really understand strokes gained yet.
No.
He dropped that bomb in the car on
Yeah,
the way
that's what
home.
I was talking about at the start
Yeah,
of the video, what
yeah.
I thought you were talking about.
Yeah. If, like, some people think this is my finding, like I found, this isn't me.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not clever enough for this. I just can look at data and see that your wedge players, DJs, Rorys generally,
Yeah.
are doing loads better on average than your tappers. And people will say things like, because Molinari's hot at the minute, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's hitting it 300 yards.
300 odd, yeah.
He's hitting it 300 yards. Don't think Molinari is short. The others are just really long.
Yeah.
He is still attacking and long. 7-iron or 6-iron then? The stats will say the 7-iron is going to be closer. What do you think, Matt? What would you care if you had a 7 or 6-iron into a hole?
I mean, looking down at a 7-iron is more appealing than a 6, but I think that this one could easily fluctuate between which is better and which is worse.
See, I agree. 7 and 6. I personally would rather have a 7
Yeah.
than a 6. If you go 7 or 8, I wouldn't care.
So as you're getting more and more lofted, you're
6
not
is my
caring.
4-iron, isn't it?
Yeah.
And 5 is my 3-iron. 6 is one away from my longest iron that I play.
Yeah.
I still feel confident I can do lots with a 6, but if you're going to give me a choice, I'll go 7. If you're going to give me a choice between 7 and 8, I kind of don't care.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 155 7-iron to kick us off.
6-iron now 7, or was that 7?
That was
Sorry.
7,
That
so
was
we're
7.
now going to go 6-iron and I'm going to move back. That was 155, let's now go 170.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go 169. Sounds silly, but I'm going to. So as we expected, 7 and 6 very close. So this is 1 yard long on predicted roll, 163 carry. This is 2 yards short on predicted roll. Standard deviation of 1 yard and 2 yard on predicted roll. Carry, standard deviation was 4 yards between the two. Very close in where I'm landing it every time in relationship to each other. Peak heights, the 6-iron was 1 yard higher than the 7. Interesting, so the same.
Yeah.
This is the key one again, 7-iron landing steeper, 46 degrees to 45 with more spin. 7 to 5, 1,200 revs more with a higher launch. Offline again, it's averaging 1.4, standard deviation of 4.9. 6-iron is averaging 2.6, so more than double to the right, standard deviation of 5.6. Very, very tight, but again for me, if I can hit and get to that 7-iron distance or below, I'm going to do it every time. I'm never going to drop back to the 6-iron unless. So if hitting a hard driver gets me to the 7-iron and hitting a pat driver gets me to the 6-iron, the next test or idea that you would have to do is which one of those two versions of that tee shot, I guess, keeps you in play or gets you out of play more, isn't it?
Yeah.
It keeps feeding back, doesn't it?
All situation based, isn't it?
Because for you, obviously, your driver can get you in all kinds of places, not as much anymore.
Yeah,
as we said.
like Me personally, at the moment, I'm seeing the advantages of hitting good drivers. I'm literally having shorter clubs in, having more birdie chances. When I was spraying it, I still do it, the odd spray obviously. It was obviously harder, but I'm just seeing so much more gains by hitting that driver well and further down there, and not having to hit my power or lumpy off the tee and then having 6 irons in, because I was never going to beat you doing that, and I'd have to play my absolute best to get close to you. But now I'm seeing driver down there, flicking on, more chances of birdie, closer matches, which is great.
So, I mean, since you started doing your driver better, I've seen the potential for you to dominate the game.
Yeah.
Is there. You don't do it always, because obviously then your iron play might not be as good as you want it to be, which is other things, but the potential for you to destroy a game by me hitting a 6 and you hitting a 9 iron, it's absolutely
it's
there.
noticeable,
Like if you get 4 rolls of that, I could hit 6 irons to 20 foot, you hit your 9 irons to 10 foot, law of averages on putts on those, you're going to roll 1 iron, not your 1 or 2 up, subject to what we do.
It's very noticeable, and that's like, you watch it on the PGA Tour, it's noticeable as well when the longer guys like DJ wins by 8 a few weeks ago. Like, it was just easy, wasn't it? Like hitting everything down there, wedging it close, lovely proximity to hold tight, plus stupid amounts on putting as well, strokes gained, wasn't he? So like every part he was gaining on, and that's where he won by such a massive margin. So
I've told the Bubba Watson story loads, haven't I, where basically we did a chipping challenge, he didn't get one in, none of the pros did, and I said to him, I'm surprised you didn't get this one in. And he said, I'm good at playing the PGA Tour, I don't need to be good at this. So basically he was saying, I don't care about chipping that much. I want a bit bomb drives, and then I want to have wedges in, and then I'm going to blow out 8 times out of 15 or 8 times out of 12 that I play, but I'll win maybe 2 majors or something like that. That's basically, I'm good at playing the PGA Tour. So if we relate this then back to the viewer who's got shots, it's an interesting flip, because often I see in the comments, so when I'm talking with Dan about being more aggressive, I'm talking more like PGA Tour. I want him to come and play against tour pros and have a go at beating them like when I play with them. Which is the point about, the field that he's playing, he calls it a tournament, when like that it's 9 people playing and none of them are full-time players, or 1 or 2 is. And obviously amateurs definitely buy into the hit straight more than bomb it. And I do for my students as well. And do you know why that is?
Because of how they, like, take my dad for instance, he gave up. Like, he was annoyed when he would shoot 100 and go home, and then Arsenal would lose, and literally wouldn't stay in the house all weekend. And I think you've got to, when you've got students, understand what type of student they are. Do they want to like go like this really quick with their handicap, or do they want to be top 10 in their leaderboard every week and not worry if their handicap's going down or up? So you see it a lot, and with the journey students that I have as well, I focus a lot on that. Like, that's one of the first questions: what do you want from this set of lessons? As soon as I understand what they want, then I know when we're out there, right, I would say this sentence instead of that sentence for someone else. So it's really important to understand what you down the lens want from your game, basically. There's
another argument as well, I agree with that, but the other argument as well is that, so I take someone like, let's talk about Guy, one of my students, journey students, who I actually got him to get the feeling of taking power off. He actually didn't. It actually went as far, but he had to feel like he was going considerably less, and he went considerably less that way when we did whatever we did with his wrist angles and whatever. But he's got 5 shots. Well, at that time he had 6 shots. So he's attacking with those shots. Dan and us, we haven't got shots, we have to make birdies. So basically, if you go and hit a hybrid off a tee because it feels more safe, and then a 6 iron somewhere near the green complex instead of the wedge on that you could have hit your driver, but that's a hole you get a shot on. Well, your tee shot is like massive on the green complex. That's aggressive. Yes, you could be more aggressive, which then leads you back to the same 6 iron or 7 iron or 6 iron 5 iron discussion. But when you've got shots involved, I understand why people are thinking, well, I don't need to blitz it all the time, or I just want to stay and play. Yeah, you've got 3 goes, 14, 22 of them, 7 of them, whatever your handicap is. Those shots can make you aggressive if you use them. They could make you even more aggressive, obviously, if you went driver off the tee and everything. But again, if the rewards are small between this club and that club, and the disasters with the free wood to the driver off the tee are much bigger, these gains are going to be lost in the losses from you hitting the longer club or not.
Yeah.
Biggest thing that strokes gain taught me, which I never knew as a junior really, and I think lots of pros forget this now, and we talked about this a lot. We kind of had this almost epiphany when we were driving home once.
Yeah.
It was after playing against Lee Westwood.
Yeah.
So this, people are going to struggle with this statement, but I'm going to say it, okay? So I didn't feel like Lee Westwood was that much better than me. Okay?
Internet explosion.
Yeah. But what we realised quite quickly when we played against him, and then in turn lots of other pros, is that they're just gaining shots gained.
Yeah.
Nearly every discipline. The only one sometimes I win it back on is hole in the odd putt.
Like, you can look at those numbers there.
Yeah.
You haven't hit one off.
I know.
Like, Lee Westwood doesn't hit one offline, and you didn't hit one offline. It's just that he's got that extra beams about him.
Yeah, we're playing, like, it was so noticeable with Andy Sullivan, it was noticeable with Lee Westwood. We get them on members courses like this, 6,200 yards, and it didn't level us, they were better, but it brought us much closer.
Yeah.
Because their ability to hit driver 300 yards, 320 yards to my 270, 280 with rollout at best, wasn't there, because they were into such small funnels on these little courses that they were having to calm down or were hitting it in the trees.
Yeah.
But we went and played the British Masters course, Close House with Lee, 7,000 plus yards in the wind. And then we played Portugal Masters course, Villamora, Andy Sullivan, and I'm hitting rinky and power hybrids in the holes he's hitting 7 irons in, and it was just like, this is not a competition.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose 4 and 3, 3 and 2. I might beat them once if they have a complete head off, but once out of 50 goes, they're always gaining. And that's what I learned from shots gains, which I think people struggle with. It's not that you can see, like if we all stood on a range and you didn't see how far anything went, you would struggle to pick the best ones.
Yeah, if you went onto a tour range and stood next to them and kept hitting, people would think that you were on tour. 100%,
and you take the distance, so no one's looking how far anything's going, because it's just down a range.
Yeah.
But when you start gaining on a tee, every tee shot, if he's gaining 0.1 or 0.2 on me, every tee shot, there's 12 of them, every approach shot he's then gaining 0.6 on me, or 0.2. It's not that they're 1 shot, 2 shot that we can see better, it's that you accumulate it over 18 and 72 holes.
Yeah.
They keep edging 0.1, 0.2, 0.4, 0.3 ahead, and then that equates to 6 or 7 shots at the end of the 2 rounds, which is, like you say, 14 ahead at the end of the 4 rounds.
Yeah.
And that's all no different to the gains that we're seeing here. The percentage gain of that 7 iron to that 6 iron, I reckon, is, without doing the maths, but on strokes gain, it's probably 0.2.
Yeah.
So, in a year, if I always choose to hit the 7 over the 6, and I hit that 10 times in half a season, in theory, I'm 2 shots better, aren't I?
Better, yeah.
2 shots better off, and that's what you're working on when it comes to if you choose to be aggressive or not. Strokes gained is not something I discovered. Like, I wish I did. I've met Mark, he's a lovely guy, but he's like, I have to concentrate when he's speaking. I have to like really think, God, I want to know what he's saying. I'm going to have to ask questions, and that's the thing, I always think it's funny. It's not, I'm not discovering, I'm not inventing any of this. I just am lucky enough to speak to cleverer people than far cleverer than me. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Big. If people get out of their little boxes, then they'll learn a lot from that. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
It'll be quite a light bulb moment.
The trouble is people just, it's very clear, the comments have been really interesting. People just think, I need to hit the fairway, I need to hit the fairway, I need to... Because there's another flip side to that as well. Stronger players are much better out of the rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got the speed.
So you put Jim or Jane or John, who are out here off 18, a wedge out but in the rough, I can see why they think they want their hybrid from the fairway.
Yeah.
It's probably not true, but they're also not that skilled from there because they haven't got the speed or the understanding of how to manoeuvre it. Again, the better player, like Dan, You put him a wedge distance out, you can put him in a lot of different places, and he's going to capitalise more than having to whack a 5-iron from a fairway.
I agree.
We're just crap, Matt.
I've always known that since filming with you.
So let's hear what you've got to say about this as post comments down below. It's very clear to me that the closer we can get you all to the green, the more options you get as soon as you get that descent angle, that bit more spin, that higher launch. So from higher lofted clubs, so more lofted clubs, you are just going to get so many more options. But again, where that might gain 0.2, you've got to remember, if you're having to hit a driver to get there, which loses you 3 shots on the field, where your 3-wood off the tee or hybrid off the tee says kind of doesn't lose or gain off the field, then hitting that and then a lofted club into the green might be the better option. It's about weighing out your pros and cons. And then obviously, if we relate this back to the Dan conversations that we've been having recently, you've got to remember he's a good driver of the ball. So he should absolutely be always trying to capitalise on these numbers, these kind of little gains that you make from hitting that more lofted club than the other. It's interesting. I think there's loads to learn from this. So this guy here put this tweet out and he shared it with me on my Instagram. So I thought I would share it on Twitter actually, and I thought I'd share it on my Instagram to see if I got similar numbers. And you can see there, 82% of you want to get rid of free putts. Only 18% of you want to hit the ball 300 yards off a tee. Got to remember, if you're hitting it ball 300 yards off a tee, some of the free putts that you've now not got rid of will be for pars. You'll be driving par 4s and you'll be driving and hitting par 5s in 2. And then the ones that you don't free putt on there, they're like aces in tennis matches. They're 3 points. And that's definitely how you shoot lower. Let's hear what you got to say. Comment section. As always, I'm sure it's going to be fun. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. We might have a little breakdown of Coach Lockey's swing tomorrow. I captured him on my 3D system that we used the other day, and we could delve deep into the Lockey swing. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up button if you want to see that tomorrow. Let me know down there as well in the comments if you want to see a little breakdown of Coach Lockey's golf swing. See you all tomorrow.